The first part of it is the shifting of our identity from the local self, the personality self, the egoic self that keeps receiving higher guidance, to actually recognizing that that higher guide, that higher voice, that inner voice is the self. And we begin the process of asking that self. We may have projected it on gods, we may have projected it on higher voice, asking that self to come in and take dominion in the household of all of ourselves. Our personality selves, our anxious selves, our separated selves. It's like bringing the gods home. It's totally activating our internal spirituality, but not just as a mystic. It's the path of the co-creator. Because once that self comes in, it has to begin the process, first of all, of educating all your own local selves. It has to learn to become authority within the self and actually have some kind of authority on all the personal local selves, much less the larger world. And an amazing thing to me was when I tried to become authority over certain of my wayward local selves, I realized I had no image of authority that I could turn to. There wasn't one person I had known in my childhood or young adulthood that was an authority that I admired. My father had been tyrannical, my husband had been patriarchal, my lovers had been dominating. I couldn't turn to the president, I couldn't turn to the priest, I couldn't turn to the parent, I couldn't turn to the pope, I couldn't turn to the politician. I had to turn within. And in order to mature an inner authority and to be able to stand firmly and saying, this I know, this I am, and this is the way I see that I'm going to go and serve in this world, is a huge step. And for me personally, what I had to do was get in touch with my inner mother and my inner father, because I found that that inner mother was immature and that inner father was bombastic and tyrannical. So I imagined them both growing up to their full, beautiful potential. The father who would be strong and powerful and creative and generous, and the mother who was gentle and beautiful. And I actually fused them, and then I took them in and began in a very, I would say, slow way to see if I could incarnate myself as a whole being. And then, of course, I ran into problems. And the problems I ran into, I was trying to bring my authority forth into the world. And the world wasn't agreeing with me about everything. There was dissonance, there were financial problems, there was struggle, there was pain. And then the question is, when you meet up with the dissonance, when you meet up with the conflict, how does co-creative leadership carry you through this? And in our community here in Santa Barbara, we have about 100 people in a conscious evolution community. And we have several hundred people now taking Gateway to Conscious Evolution, where we're attempting as a community to see if we can learn co-creative leadership, co-creative authority, whether we're men or women, but particularly for women, since there is no model for us as co-creative leaders beyond the dominator model, in the partnership model, at the time when the world itself is struggling to move either toward devolution or evolution. We're saying this is the greatest opportunity that women have ever had. And I have also, going back to Betty Friedan and the Fountain of Age, I recognize that the older women post-menopause, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, that is half a lifetime that is relatively a new generation. And more women are entering the age of menopause than ever before in the history of humanity. There are millions and millions of women in the United States of America. And talk about no self-image. I'm writing a book with Diane Cirincione called Regenopause, and we asked women what image they had of themselves past 50. No one had a positive image. That isn't to say we weren't feeling positive, but the social imagery hardly existed at all. So what we're saying here is that as women shift from the age of procreation, they move to the age of co-creation. They move from maximum self-reproduction into self-evolution. And the period from the postmenopausal period through the full-scale manifestation of who we are is probably the greatest opportunity to give birth to the authentic self than has ever existed before in human history. Because even a century ago, the average lifespan was 40 or 50 years. Now the average woman lives up to 78 or 79 years in the United States. And our daughters and granddaughters may live to 100 and beyond. They may have no children, few children, they may get married, they may not get married. So the older women have to present to those younger women some model of what we're becoming. And if our model is, whatever age we are, that we're giving birth to the authentic self, that we are tapping into that deep self-creativity and looking for life purpose and vocation, and learning to give it forth through co-creation with others doing the same, in such a way that we can actually act as guides in the transition of humanity from one stage of evolution to the next. Because I just like to stop with the thought that we're in late transition on planet Earth. That change is accelerating so rapidly that within the next 15, 20, 30 years, we'll undoubtedly see whether we're going down into very rapid destruction, or are we moving forward to a shift in consciousness and greater social synergy. And we happen to be the generation online. And I believe that the leadership of women during late transition on planet Earth, tapping into that unique love and creativity, authentic self, and genuine authority, may be evolution's great secret as to how the human species is going to make it. Because we haven't been in a leadership role for thousands of years. And just this generation, in the last 30 to 40 years, women have been liberated. And it is in exactly the same years that we found out we had the population problem, the environmental problem, the social problems. We happen to be the women at the time on planet Earth to awaken to the great privilege that we have of serving in a modest way, because no one knows how to do this. There are no experts in how a planet makes it through to the next stage. But if anybody is going to find out, I would trust the guidance, the intuition, and the wisdom of women gathering throughout the world. Thank you.